Hello, everybody. My name is Noah Sweeto with
Nathaniel Shoemaker.
and this is Film Nerds Hour. Welcome back, everybody. Today, we're going to be bringing you a cool adaptation that's loosely based on its original short story called Re-Animator.
Mm-hmm.
The short story came from
H.P. Lovecraft.
H.P. Lovecraft. I knew that. I kept.
Did you really? You didn't say it.
I did not. I don't know why that didn't roll off my tongue right. It's part of the Anchor Bay collection, apparently, though, too. Right off the bat, we're going to say that you can watch it right now. As of the making of this video in October, you can still watch it on Tubi for free. We're not being sponsored by Tubi, but I just want to take a second to say I highly recommend Tubi. It is such a great app. You get to watch about 25, 30 minutes of whatever movie you're watching before they show you any ads, and even those ads total up for a total of maybe like 15 to 20 seconds. And there's only usually 3 of them. So it's something that you should definitely watch. Sometimes there's one ad if you're using Roku or anything as well. So Tubi is pretty much available on all devices to my knowledge. So I definitely recommend Tubi. A lot of cool 80s movies on there. And if you have Amazon Prime, so if you ever want to go back to back with some of those cool 80s movies that got taken off Prime, chances are they are probably on Tubi. So go check that out. But right now, Re-Animator is free on Tubi. You can get it on Hulu, YouTube TV, Sling TV, and Amazon Prime with a premium subscription, Showtime with a subscription, or you can rent it on YouTube and Google Play Movies and TV for $1.99. Showtime Anywhere also has it with a subscription. So,
I'd say watch it if you got a pretty strong stomach for gore.
Yeah, or if you do enjoy Frankenstein, which we did our last episode on. If you haven't listened to that,
yeah, it's the same vein of Frankenstein, but it's not
the exact same.
No, not at all.
No, but if you like the idea of,
if you like a crazy doctor,
and the idea of reanimation, essentially.
Yeah. Also, be forewarned. I have to remember. Be forewarned in this movie. I'll say it. A lot of boobs.
Yeah. And a couple of uncomfortable scenes.
Couple, yeah.
So, for those of you that don't know, the original novel is called Herbert West Re-Animator, and they did also do what it looks like a version called Herbert West Re-Animator and Other Short Stories Included by H.P. Lovecraft. It started off as a short story. So, right away, something I kind of want to say that really intrigued me about this movie right off the bat was the fact that its theme is almost nearly identical to Psycho's.
Yeah, it's pretty close.
The beat is definitely there.
Yeah. Yeah, I can see that, yeah.
And what also kind of gives this movie a vibe to show you just how dark and a little bit messed up it is a Brian Usna film.
Oh, God. This guy. I won't deny he has an imagination. And I won't deny he is a very creative human being. But Brian Usna, if you're somehow listening to this, you have no idea how many fundamental moments of my life there have been where I've wished you were right next to me so I could hammer punch you in the dick. So much displeasure and uncomfort. Thanks. And also, I don't want to say something too aggressive. Whatever. I'm putting on sunglasses.
And then there's me. I am the type of person who's that is disturbing, but also amazing. How did they do that?
I know. If he was ever on the show, it'd be a very mixed feeling for him, because you'd be you'd ask him so many questions, and you'd be so excited, and then I'd just be sitting across not listening, don't care, whatever.
You gotta hand it. So, if you ever want to get some disturbing stuff out there, not not the same vein as Saw.
No.
It is a different kind of disturbing.
And, because, you think of zombies, which I guess these kind of are, except they don't want to, eat anybody. They're just rage, and they throw, and
it's kind of like...
But it's like...
Frankenstein from the Mary Shelley novel.
Yeah. But you never...
but with a little more dumb or intelligent, give or take.
But you never think of... Because these are, corpses from like a morgue that are getting reanimated, and there's a lot of them towards the end. But you never think of the fact that reanimated dead bodies, sometimes they don't have clothes on. And,
yeah.
No, please, no.
Yeah, which is where a lot of the nudity comes from. Like, you get a full frontal shot of one guy who's chasing Herbert and,
just full...
Yeah, a couple of other people.
Yeah.
So, but...
He's a really buff guy as well, but that's later, so...
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, I mean, like I kind of said before, if you do like the idea of reanimation,
it's
or
an
you like the
interesting
Frankenstein...
concept, but...
Yeah, if you like the idea of Frankenstein, they both live in the same vein as each other. Not hand in hand, but definitely in the same reanimated vein. No pun intended. But kind of how do we start off with this movie? We start off with
Switzerland, right?
I think so.
Yeah, it's in Switzerland because Herbert West. That's where we meet him.
Yeah, and he's we start off at a college, or an institution there.
You hear a lot of noise, like a lot of screaming.
Into which
it's a man screaming, and like some security guards guys break down the door.
To find
this professor, this tenured, very old professor of this
which
college.
I believe is Carl Hill.
Yeah, and he's shaking, he's convulsing. He's at one point his eyeballs explode.
And he's foaming at the mouth.
Yeah, which can we stop doing movies after this month where eyes are involved as a thing? Because I can't. I can't. Like,
I didn't even know that Re-Animator had eyes until I watched it, and I was like,
oh yeah, well there's that, and then there's the later scene with the head where he's like putting his fingers through his eye. I don't know what it is. I can't explain it if I had like an hour plus. There's something about damage being done to the eye.
Because it's not replaceable.
Exactly. Well, it is, but it's like, it's not... And I know because, like, there's no nerve endings in the eye, so it would... All we would feel would be pressure if our eye was getting crushed. But it's like... I think it's because it's the key to one of the things that makes life, for a lot of people, able to live. You know?
Because you need to see.
You
can't drive, you can't walk, you'll bump into walls.
You can't read books, you can't watch movies. Like, it's not... It's something where it's like, nope, don't touch these. Don't do it. Like, so anytime they do get touched in film, I'm just like, nope. Can't handle it. I think it's the same with me with ankle shit. Because, like, that's your foot. That's how you walk. That's such an integral part of your day to the point where you don't even think about it.
Well, part of it too. It's like the armpit. Like... It's just a sense of space. There's not a whole lot of meat there.
Yeah.
You don't want to think of somebody stabbing you in the armpit with a pencil or something.
To be fair, I don't know if I've ever seen anything where someone's armpit got stabbed.
Oh, I have. I've seen it once. And if you think about Logan.
Oh, yeah.
X-24.
Yep. Okay.
And that part for me was like, no.
Yeah, no. No, thank you.
Because that is a whole pocket of meat that just...
Yeah.
There's nothing there.
Yeah, so this woman sees the doctor and he's suffering, and she's like, "You killed him," and and Herbert's like, "I didn't kill him. I brought him back to life." And then we get the title sequence.
Yeah, which Herbert was played by Jeffrey Combs, which
he's a cold actor. He's not in a lot.
No, but he's
solid.
creepy.
Yeah, he's solid for what he does and what he gets paid to do on screen. He does it very well. And from what I understand, he's a cool guy.
Yeah, I'd like to meet him. And he's like oldish, but looks
there,
young.
But, yeah.
I think he's in his 60s. Yeah, he's 66. He was in From Beyond, which was another H.P. Lovecraft one. The two sequels, which is Bride of Re-Animator.
I know him from...
Beyond Re-Animator. The Frighteners?
I know him... No.
He's in there, too.
No. I know him... I think the first time I saw him was in a... Is it Truth or Dare? Or Would You Rather? Would You Rather?
Yep, Would You Rather. He's been in Abominable, Holiday Hell, The Wizard of Gore. Transfers 2. Really? I haven't watched it yet.
Yeah.
The Guyver with Mark Hamill. Fear.com. House on Haunted Hill. Return to House on Haunted Hill.
Yep.
Frightmare. So,
but, yeah, he does a lot of...
horror.
Yeah. Like kind of indie-ish, kind of.
Indie, yeah.
But, So then we cut to our main character. I'd say more of our main character than Herbert. Dan.
Yeah, who was played by the awesome Bruce Abbott.
Mm-hmm. And he's like giving chest compression to like a shirtless woman. And this is what I mean where it's like a lot of boobs, because it's like this isn't explicitly necessary.
It's not, but you know, at the same time, I don't know if Brian Usna was putting in it for arousal, because there really was none. You're just operating on people.
I think he's putting it in because it's Brian Usna. Like this movie, and then another movie where review for that will be coming out past October. We won't say the movie, but I audibly yell at Noah for making me watch it. So there's you remember that? Yeah, I was pissed at you. I feel like a big theme with him is like sexuality.
Yeah.
Whether that's some kind of allegory for something else, like the monsters of humanity or something, or he's just a perv, I don't know. But
either one is possible, I guess.
Yeah, I guess. But he's like doing chest compressions, and this woman dies, and then he has to take her to the morgue, and can I just say, one of my favorite, like, he's not in the movie much, but I love the security guard who works the desk at the morgue.
Yeah, he's funny.
He's a really great guy.
He does seem super funny.
Yeah. Because he's just, like, he's so, like,
down there, he's like,
like, you know.
Things are things, man. I'm cool.
It's whatever. Who cares? Like, he just seems like a cool guy. But he, like, brings it in, and the morgue, as he says, is a full house, because there's, like, 7 other bodies there, or something like that.
Yeah, we missed one thing too, that Dan is in practice to be a doctor, and that
he's currently in medical school, but he's working at a hospital.
And the girl that he was trying to revive, he had a very hard time dealing with the fact that he's under the idea that sometimes if you really do try a little bit longer, you could bring someone back, which in some cases are true.
And it's why I like him so much. He's a very, like,
down to earth.
He wants to save people. That's why he's a doctor. He's not doing it for the money. He's not doing it for...
I'm the best.
He's not doing it for the bragging rights. He's not doing it for science and the progression. He's doing it because he wants to help people.
And that's where your loyalties should lie when you're in the health division.
And he's very opposite of Herbert West.
Very.
Because Herbert is very, like, knowledge and all of this stuff. And we get that especially at the end of the movie, too. But we won't get there yet. But he's there, and so is the guy who's, like, he's working in the morgue, and he's, like, a professor. What's his name? The guy who turns out to be an asshole.
Yeah, that's what I'm trying to look at.
Hank?
No, that
Halsey?
would be... Or not... Was Professor? No, that's actually, I think, Dr. Carl... Or Dean Halsey.
No, Dean Halsey is the love interest's dad.
Okay, so then it must be...
It's the guy with the kind of like...
It must be Carl Hill then. Because
Hill, thank you, yeah. It's Carl Hill.
I'm sorry, so the person who died in the beginning was played by Ian Patrick Williams. He played the Swiss professor.
Yeah. So
David Gale plays Dr. Carl Hill.
Yeah, Carl Hill is there. He's like using this laser thing to open up a brain. And then Dean Halsey comes in with Herbert West saying he's transferring. He was working under so-and-so, whatever. And Herbert, you can tell he's very antisocial. He doesn't shake hands. He's very blunt and honest and doesn't, like, really get social etiquette or anything like that. But then he, like, criticizes Hill because he's like, your work is very derivative of the person that I was studying under. And in Europe, what you did was defined as plagiarism. So it's like, you can tell he already doesn't respect him.
Yeah, which is a big problem already, and really adds to the tension of having Herbert there as kind of being in with the class.
Yeah, and because in the classroom scene, they're like, he opens up the brain and like he lifts up the scalp and like takes the skull off to get the human brain. And he says that, like, when brain dead, the human is alive anywhere from 6 to 12 minutes, which Herbert thinks is incorrect.
Yeah, and he openly basically
He breaks some
undermines
pencils
him.
and he like yells at him for not allowing the students to like discover their own things.
So he totally undermines him in front of his own class.
Yeah. Which seems like a tool move, but later on when you see Hill's real character, you kind of don't care.
Yeah.
But so then we get, is it then that we get the scene with Dan and his girlfriend?
Yeah, I believe so. Who is the daughter of
Daughter of the dean, and he's sleeping with her. So it's a very like,
not the best idea, but you do you.
I wouldn't. And she even says like, "Oh, we'll get married after you get your degree or something." And it's like, that's still not saying like, this is a dude who could, as we see later, like make it very difficult for me. Like,
yeah, and take away your thing.
it's the same with like, don't dip your pen in the company ink, like that kind of danger.
Also, the doctor that they talk about was not the Swiss professor. They kind of all look alike in this movie. They picked a lot of older people.
Older white guys.
Yeah, which they blend, and that's not supposed to be a jab at anything, but
it is one, but it's not supposed to be.
Dr. Hans Gruber is the person, who dies.
Yeah, Hans, yeah. The Swiss professor, yeah. And Dr. Hill is the brain guy, and Halsey's the dean. I just watched it yesterday.
Yeah, it's... I don't know, I feel like it's a bit confusing the way they cast the people, because a lot of the people, they don't look... They look the same. That's a bit of my problem with it.
Not any diversity in this movie, aside from the security guard, which is an of-the-time thing.
Yeah.
Just a lot of old white dudes.
Yeah, into which... it's good because, David Gale really gave a good Dr. Carl, though.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah.
Which you wouldn't expect to be the bad guy at all, though.
Yeah.
In the very beginning, you expected him to be more...
He just seems like a teacher. But the more it goes on, you get the slow hints.
Yeah, and he gets up there and like a... God, you are despicable.
Yeah, like you're... Like, it's not even like you're evil. You're gross. Like...
Yeah.
But so then, when they're at his apartment...
That's when they just had sex.
Yeah, they... Post-coital, as science would say. And, it's him, his girlfriend, and his cat is there, too.
Yeah, and his girlfriend gets dressed.
She's gonna go back to... Like, I'm assuming her dad's home, because she probably still lives with him.
Which her name is Megan, Megan Halsey, who is played by Barbara Crampton.
Yeah. Well known.
But after she gets dressed, basically they're walking out.
And Herbert's there.
Dan's still naked.
He's still new. He's doing a weird ghost act with the sheets.
Yeah, and also trying to be like, well... Come back to bed. We're not done here. Yeah. And then they get a knock at the door, and
it's Herbert.
For some reason, Megan opens it knowing that he's naked, and I'm sitting there like,
yeah, why?
Your boyfriend's naked? Could you at least give him a chance?
She's like going backwards to go out the door. Like, I don't
true.
remember there being a knock.
Oh yeah, she kind of bumps.
She opens it and he's there.
But she could have been like, let's wait a second.
Yeah, but he's inquiring about a room for rent.
Yeah, because Dan had put up a sign on kind of the campus to say, I need a roommate. Mm-hmm. Which... How
much it charges, blah, blah, blah.
Which, we could assume he's having money issues. Really doesn't...
Well, it shows later on as well.
Yeah.
But, Herbert's like, hey, I'm here to inquire about the room. And he's very creepy. He's very, non-social. Doesn't shake any hands.
All the red flags.
Yeah, I wouldn't have been his roommate.
It's like that quiet person at work who you suspect, but instead of them being like a more social butterfly.
Well, okay, yeah. I mean, now that I think about it, maybe I would want him as my roommate. Because at first, Dan just thinks he's, awkward. And, he probably just thinks he wouldn't leave his room that much, which he doesn't. So he probably just thinks, oh, okay, I basically still don't have a roommate. I'll just be getting money. Which sounds
Yeah,
like a pretty sweet deal.
If he's to himself, he's probably not going to be out of his room trying to invite people over.
Having parties, yeah. So, but he shows him the place. He gets really infatuated with the basement. That's a red flag. He's like, yes, this is the space. And it's like...
Which, really, Megan is not comfortable with that at all.
No, she immediately, alarms going off, no. But he gives money to Dan for the rent, and he goes, sure.
Just
like,
yeah, Dan doesn't even consider it, while
like,
Megan is sitting there going, yeah, can you like take a second to just think about what you're doing? And Dan is just like, well, it is what it is. Hey, if he's a serial killer, he's a serial killer. It's all right.
He's giving me cash. Who cares?
And to which when they get to the basement, Dan sort of kind of feels something wrong. Like, okay,
a little unsettling.
You're socially awkward, but now you're just staring in the basement, being like, oh yeah. Like, this is my evil lair.
He doesn't say that, but he might as well.
But might as well, yeah. But Dan is still a dumbass and decides to just keep the money and is like, maybe not. And his girlfriend gets pissed at him, obviously, because like, if I was Megan, I'd still be. If I was with anybody, I'm like, okay, you don't even know who this guy is. You haven't sat down. I mean, the thing with a roommate too.
Yeah, you got to do an interview. For sure.
Yeah, which is, may seem weird to some people who don't have roommates, or for some of you out there who, I don't know, there could be some audience out there where you guys have had experiences like that. But I'm pretty sure that somewhere along the line, one of the people listening to this will probably have an experience where they've had a weird roommate and were like...
Oh, everyone has, for sure. Especially college.
I know that somebody in my family had a roommate and they started off okay, and then they just were terrible. Yeah. Didn't do the dishes, didn't do anything.
Yeah, that's the thing. That's the thing with a roommate. You got to do chores. No one likes doing them, but you gotta. And
yeah, don't leave your garbage out for everybody else.
Yeah, throw your garbage away. If the garbage can is full, take the garbage out.
Yeah, I mean, like,
if the milk carton is empty, let everyone know so you can buy more milk. Like,
I mean, I'll admit I'm a messy person, but the fact is, like, they never did anything. Yeah, like, they didn't vacuum. They didn't
live like a slob.
Anything. They didn't even clean their bathrooms.
Ugh. Yeah.
And they never cleaned their sheets either. They were just like fussing in the room. I'm like, I may not always be the best person, but I can still clean stuff. And
exactly.
I still clean my clothes and wash them.
Exactly.
How do you go like 4 months without washing your clothes?
You don't, humanly. but yeah. So he starts rooming with him, and then isn't it like, oh yeah, she's having dinner with her dad and Hill,
which is Dean Hazley.
Yeah, because Hill just got a grant for the school because of his laser, and she's like, I'm gonna go and hang out with Dan and for a study date, and Hill is very weird. He's like, you should have it here. No, that's okay. And he's like, well, to you. And he like toasts and he says like something along the lines of her being a beautiful creature, and it's like, oh, you're my father's age.
A no.
Yeah, no please.
This is not a what are you doing, stepdaughter?
Yeah, exactly.
What are you doing, best friend's daughter?
Nope. So they go back to his place and they are studying, but they start like kissing, and then they hear a noise. And she goes into... It's a very long sequence of like tension, because you don't know what the noise is, but you know it's something. But she goes into Herbert's room, and they find the cat is dead in his fridge. Or no, it's not that they hear a noise. They're wondering where the cat is.
Yeah, which,
because usually he's bugging them. We saw that earlier when they were having sex and the cat jumped on his back.
Which, if you know anything about cats literally... Like,
they're attention whores.
They're attention whores, but they also do it to protect you because they're like, this is my human.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't want you to take him away from me. Cats are very loyal. Dogs are too, but, there's something about cats that I've always liked more. And it's biased because I have a cat. Mm-hmm. I've had a dog before I had a cat, but Dan is like, it's whatever. For me, with my cat Marty, which eventually you guys will probably see a picture on the Instagram. Mm-hmm. I love my cat Marty, such a cutie. But the thing about Marty is that he is always social. He's almost always out and about, which is a big problem if I don't see him and I get a little bit worried because that could mean that he got out or something. So
yeah,
you'd think that Dan would be a little more concerned, but it turns out to be Megan, and she's asking around because she's like, Dan is like, oh, no.
Well, and she also said that he's scared of Herbert.
Yeah. Which, if you know anything about animals sense the devil in people.
They do.
They really do.
Animals and babies.
right away they will know if you are good or bad, because that's pretty much their only defense system.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the same with babies, because, you know, you're not, what are you going to do as a baby?
Exactly. So she finds the cat dead in a fridge in Herbert's room, and he's like, "What are you doing in here?" And Dan's like, "What's going on?" And he's like, "I thought I had a private room." And he's like, "Yeah, what are you doing in his room?" And she shows him the cat, and he's like, "I put him there. I was going to tell you." And she's like, "He killed him." And he's like, "No, I found him dead. I was going to tell you later." And he goes, "What do you mean you found him?" And he's like, "Oh, a jar. He was in the trash, and a jar went on his head and suffocated him." And he's like, "You couldn't have told me earlier today?" And he's like, "What was I going to do? Leave a note? Sorry, cat dead. More info later." And it is a funny line, but it's like, I get what he's saying. But also, why are you putting the cat in the fridge?
Yeah, you wouldn't do that.
Well, he said he didn't want it to make the place smell.
Yeah, but it's still creepy to put it in your fridge in your room, and then when you get home to not say anything.
Mm-hmm. But then later that night, Dan wakes up because he hears a noise, and then he goes down to the basement, and the cat is attacking Herbert.
Yeah, no, which Dan is like, "What the fuck?"
Yeah, exactly.
Also, at the same time, like...
Well, there's like a great sequence where they're in the basement. He's got a bat, Herbert's got a croquet mallet, and they're kind of just looking for it.
Yeah. So they have a mini battle with the cat as Dan tries to figure out what he is seeing, and West is more freaked out about, like, "Help me get it off."
Yeah.
And Dan's sitting there like, "Do I help you? That's my cat. How's he alive? You just had him in your fridge."
Not a lot is explained.
Yeah, so everything is just kind of happening for Dan, but he ends up helping him get the cat off. Into which they think the cat is dead.
It is. It's smashed.
But it starts to get back up, and then...
No. So what happened? The cat is dead, and then they start talking, and he's like, "So my cat wasn't." He tells him about the reagent and how his cat was dead, but he brought him back to life. And he's like, "No, you didn't. You just slowed down his heart." And because he's like, "Bringing dead back to life isn't possible, Herbert." And he goes, "All right. Well, will you agree that the cat is dead now?" And he goes, "Yeah." And then he puts the reagent in the cat, and it starts moving again. And its back is broken. It's in pieces, but it just starts moving again.
Until it comes back to life, and then they kill it again.
Exactly. But then, Dan tells the dean, and the dean is pissed at both of them.
Yeah.
So it's like it's a big argument sequence, but he tells him that his student loan is gone. Basically, it's going to be rescinded, which means he's going to have to come up with money for school, which he wouldn't be able to. So he's going to have to drop out of school, and Herbert is going to get kicked out of the school.
Yeah, which I think is BS in a way, because it wasn't Dan's fault at all.
No.
He had a crazy roommate, and part of me thinks that Dean expected something, which I think is actually his first name, and he's the dean of
and also he probably has it out for him because he knows he's sleeping with his daughter. And...
Well, yeah, because I'm like, you're gonna say that over a place of medical science, but the dude that you allowed, the shifty dude that people were saying watch out for him, like, that's not Dan's fault, that's a you fault.
Exactly. Sorry. Yeah, exactly.
So that really was like a red flag.
Mm-hmm.
I think, but also shame on Dean for doing that.
Yeah. So then Dan decides to sneak Herbert into the morgue. And they go in because they're going to try and prove it again. They're going to bring a person to life.
Yeah, because we had Herbert did a couple of human trials, but noted that, like, one of the things with, like,
Well, I think he said that the professor in his notes was the first human he tried it on. Because, like, it said in the notes he did some rats, some cats, some dogs, and some rabbits.
Carl Hill at the beginning of the film was his very first...
No, Carl Hill is the bad doctor, the Swedish doctor at the beginning.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, the Swedish professor, the Swiss professor is... which they gave him a name. But
it's not horribly important. He's in one scene and they mention him a few times.
Yeah, but... He notes, too, that he put too much reagent into him, and that's why his body basically exploded and turned into mush.
Gook is the term I'll use. But so then they go in and they're looking at different bodies, and one he's like, nope, that won't work. That was a car accident. That's a burn victim. Like, he's looking for bodies that have a good brain. That's in the morgue.
Yeah. Well, not to mention, too, I mean, to bring back those burning victims, they're probably going to feel everything, too. If you bring
they talk about that. It's the pain. But, so they find a person who was like heart failure or something like that. A guy in his 20s. Huge dude. Buff. Gigantic. And he puts some in him. Nothing's working. They're running out of time. So he puts more in him. Nothing works again. But then he gets up and grabs both of them and starts tossing them around the room.
Yeah, which is kind of the comedic part of this film a lot.
Mm-hmm. Well, and it's terrifying because he's a huge, buff, naked guy, and like...
Oh, and you see his dick.
Yep, and his veins are bulging out of his face, and he's like blood at the mouth, and it's like... Ugh.
Yeah, but one thing I wanted to point out, I feel like a bit, is that the Return of the Living Dead came out the same year as Re-Animator, so part of the reanimation process could also be kind of a nod to that, too. I don't know.
Maybe, exactly, or at least inspired.
Yeah, a little bit, because quick thing about the Return of the Living Dead, skip ahead a couple seconds if you don't want a spoiler, but one of the things that you learn about the zombies in there is that the reason that they're eating human brains is not because they're just mindless zombies, it's because it numbs the pain of when they died and the decay and the rot that they're going through.
Yeah, they feel it all. Which, to me, there are parts of that doesn't make sense, because if you're feeling the pain of decay and rot, your nerves were probably the first thing to go. But it's, yeah.
If you're reanimated, there's something...
It's a phantom pain, probably. But so then the dean shows up because he's been looking for Dan, because he's not supposed to come into the work, because he's also suspended from work. So he hears them in the morgue freezer... And we get it's like a dark humor thing, because he's right up against the morgue freezer, and then the buff guy runs through and knocks the morgue freezer off, and then he starts jumping on it.
Yeah, and who was under there again?
The dean.
Oh, yeah, which he gets his, which is...
There's much more stuff that happened, but yeah, he dies.
Yeah, they end up...
Herbert gets a bone saw and puts it through the dude's chest.
Yeah,
it's a funny thing, too, because Dan's panicking, and Herbert is just... He gets the bone saw and he goes, Dan, get back. Like, a lot of his lines are very muted. Like, no emotion.
Yeah, but that's what makes him so different from, like, Dr. Frankenstein, for instance.
Yeah, because Frankenstein is all emotion and personality. He's alive! Yeah,
yeah, he's excited, he's got emotion, he's got love, where Herbert is very... sheltered in his shell type of I'm here to do my work, don't bug me.
Yeah, well, unlike Frankenstein, because that's the episode that came out before this one, correct?
Yes.
Should be, yeah. So an interesting thing I learned about that, because we watched Frankenstein and we reviewed it, but afterwards there's like a bunch of documentaries on this Blu-ray edition that I have. Apparently, a lot of the versions of that movie shown on film, they take out that segment we were talking about where he's freaking out and he says, "Dear God, now I know what it feels like to be God."
Yeah.
For obvious reasons, that was removed via censors from a lot of on-television showings of Frankenstein, which I feel like is an important line, but I understand why they would take it off.
Yeah, I feel like it's one of those things you kind of have to have in there, though, because it is
it
really one of those things that you really need to show how
crazy
much Frankenstein thinks of himself.
Yeah.
So, I mean, to take it out, I feel like really kind of tropes the entire movie.
Yeah, it kind of does.
I mean, I get why, but, you know, that's
They don't want to get any angry letters.
Yeah, but, I mean, at the same time, though, the way I see it, too, and it's kind of what Herbert West does as well. Uh-huh. There is a very specific reason that we as humans are not allowed to play God. The only way we are allowed to play God in a sense in creating life is by the natural reproduction.
Yeah.
But we are not meant to go beyond that.
Yeah, having a kid
and repopulating, that's it.
Yep. That's the only form of creation. Or maybe like Well, there's a lot of different forms of creating. Like, if you're an architect or you're an author, like, you're creating something. But
in
living
terms of
creation, yeah.
biology.
Yeah.
And that's something I like, where these two themes of these two different novels meet. I mean, Mary Shelley's Frankenstein was made in the 1800s, and obviously H.P. Lovecraft's was made between the original short was made in between 1921 1922. But I'm sure that H.P. Lovecraft probably got some of his inspiration from the Mary Shelley novel. I think it's
1,000%. 1,000%.
But that's what makes Herbert West really does seem like not to say that it's a ripoff, but Herbert West is really just the introverted version of what Frankenstein is.
Yeah, because he doesn't want to have a godlike power, or he doesn't want to feel like God. He's doing it for science because he wants to beat death.
Yeah,
for scientific academic reasons,
which is the most important thing to know about Herbert West. This is not for...
Like, I get the feeling if they told him, we're gonna take your thing, we're gonna take your formula and use it to bring people back to life and save lives, but we're not giving you any money for it, he'd be like, yeah.
Which, there's quite a few things where he's tempted by money. People try to tempt him with money, and he's like,
no,
that's not what this is about. This is my formula.
Yeah, exactly. It's for the scientific advancement. It's not for the cash, which is the opposite of Hill.
Yeah, which makes it very hard to know whether to boo or root for.
Yeah, it's
Herbert.
It's a double-edged sword in a lot of ways.
Yeah, because
I am sorry. Sorry about that.
He goes out of his way to do a lot of horrendous things and a lot of, unorthodox and, politically incorrect ways to do experiments. But at the same time, he's trying to do
unethical and unhumane. But it's for science. It's for the pursuit of knowledge.
Yeah, and I think, like Frankenstein, it delivers the same message.
Yeah.
But it really presents a different kind of message. Not just not messing with life, but also it really shows the morals of what happens when one is, are things really worth doing just because you can do them?
Exactly. Is it like, it's the same thing with the Jurassic Park movies?
Yeah, or even with Thanos.
Mm-hmm.
I'd say too, just because you have the ability to wipe out half the universe
and you're doing
and
it
create balance
because you think it would help doesn't mean you should. Like, that's the same thing Jeff Goldblum says in Jurassic Park. You were so caught up with whether or not you could, you didn't stop to think if you should.
Yeah, which and there's a lot of things too that make you think throughout this film. For me, when I first watched it, I was thinking, if Herbert was right,
mm-hmm.
what would happen with that?
Right. Like, what would happen if it got marketed and it actually, like...
Yeah, and one of the things he stresses about is the danger of a lot to Dan of if this gets in the wrong hands. Yet
mm-hmm.
he's... One of the things that really annoys me about West is that he goes around using this willy-nilly.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the things that I kind of thought about, too, when I was watching the movie is the fact that when they snuck into the morgue,
mm-hmm.
What would have happened if you had to hide and that body would have came back to life and escaped?
Exactly.
And disappeared.
They didn't really think their plan ahead.
Yeah, which is...
Because why would the person you brought back not attack you? You brought the cat back and it attacked you.
Yeah, which, is the same theme like in Jurassic Park and Frankenstein. Mm-hmm. And it really shows what makes these mad scientists mad scientists.
Mm-hmm.
Herbert wants to do it for the greater good, but, he's more insane than anything.
Mm-hmm.
And I think the reason his introvertness is so high is because of the fact that he is insane.
Mad scientist. Yeah.
Well, if you think about the definition of insanity, it's doing the same thing over and over and expecting a different result. And
to his credit, he's not doing the same thing over and over. He says he'll try different dose sizes. He'll do it on different sized animals.
But he's still using the formula and expecting
he's not
the
adjusting
results to
the
be
formula
perfect
at all.
So that's why I say he's insane. If you gave him a mental analysis, the way he constantly is trying to do different doses and trying to do things differently, he's still expecting that one of these times they're going to be near perfect perfection.
Yeah. Which I don't think they ever will.
Yeah, and that's the thing. I think what West is setting out to do is... And that's another thing, too. Herbert is trying to accomplish beating death.
Yeah.
But he's so focused on bringing the dead back to the living room that he wasn't even thinking, what about the people who are alive?
Exactly.
So it really kind of shows that, too. He doesn't have it doesn't seem like he has any compassion for the living.
Right.
It's more about the dead. And if he does perfect that formula to keep them alive, which is something that in its sequel, the sequels explore a bit too of what happens when you do get somebody that's worth it and can function, and where that would lead you.
Right. Exactly. So the Dean ends up getting killed, but they put the reagent in him.
Yeah, which they have to hide from Mace, who is the African-American security guard. Very funny, played by Jerry Black.
He's great. Which
is kind of funny. Jerry Black, and he's a black guy.
Yeah. Interesting. Yeah. But so then Meg comes in, she sees, and he's like, to her eyes, he's just insane.
Yeah. Well, because also, especially the cat thing, you can't really blame her.
Yeah. But so then, no, I mean her dad just seems insane. He's not dead.
Oh, yeah, he's just finally lost it and snapped his shit.
Yeah. So then it cuts to him being in a straitjacket in a padded room.
Well, we forgot one thing, too, is that Dean attacks them.
Yeah, I said that.
Oh, okay. Yeah, sorry,
He goes crazy. But then Hill is like, I'll do a lobotomy on him. Or no, he wants to study his brain.
And Megan would rather just...
She signs it over, but then he's really creepy with her. Doesn't he put his hands on her shoulders?
Yeah.
And he's like, you need someone to take care of you. And it's like, no.
Okay, so now that you're...
Creepy old man, no.
Yeah, and it doesn't seem like much of friendship with Halsey the more you think it's more about Megan than anything.
Exactly. So then she asks Dan what happened, and he explains that he's dead, and he was given the reagent to be brought back to life, kind of.
And she's very upset for obvious reasons.
Yeah, why wouldn't you be?
And I think what really ties that knot in such a good way is the fact that Herbert's weird in that, and basically Megan warned him that this is exactly what would happen if you allowed Herbert into your life. Things would get bad.
She's like, I told you not to let him live in the house, but you didn't listen.
And that's what makes it even kind of better. The cool thing too is having Dan and Megan's relationship in the movie.
Makes you care.
It makes you care, and it doesn't feel like a pointless subplot.
No.
It doesn't feel like one of those, because you get some movies and horror films where it's like they focus on this relationship and all this drama, like something in Friday the 13th.
He's got a girlfriend because he's got a girlfriend.
Yeah, like Friday the 13th. Oh, I just want to have sex with her for the weekend, and blah, 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 blah. And it's like, no, that doesn't need it. And it's the campiness of slashers, but some horror films still do it, but the thing about Re-Animator is that the story really ties together, and it really adds to Dan's character and how he goes on in the other movies.
Right.
Which is something that
because he's really in the second one, but only Herbert's in the third one, right?
I have not seen the third one, but
it's on Tubi.
Yeah, I will take a look at them. All of them are actually on Tubi right now. I believe
it's Re-Animator, and then it's Bride of Re-Animator.
And those should be also on Prime for free, but not the first one.
Yeah.
And it looks like it's only Herbert West, and that is called Beyond Re-Animator.
Yeah. So then, and he's way older in that one as well.
Yeah.
So then, Hill confronts West. And he's like, I studied his brain. I know he's actually dead. You're going to tell me how you did it. And so he shows him like a microscope of it, and he goes, "Great, I'm gonna take the notes, and this is gonna be my greatest success, and it's gonna be amazing for me." But as he's distracted, he hits him over the head with a shovel and decapitates him with said shovel.
Yeah, which is very nice. It's to be honest, it's pretty satisfying.
Yeah,
because he had it coming.
Yeah, I hated him. Especially in a bit, we'll see a really reason why we hate him.
Yeah. Which I think already.
I'm sorry, am I boring you?
Maybe.
Well, I quit though. No.
I think if the creepiness of Megan creeping on Megan was enough to get you to dislike Dr. Hill, then nothing else will. But yeah. I think really in the end game of the movie,
there's a funny thing as well, because after he decapitates him, he puts his head in like a dish, but the head keeps falling over. So then he puts a meat thermometer on the dish and just sticks the head on so it stays up. Like, it's very like, ugh, it keeps falling over, whatever. Like,
and I mean,
dark comedy.
And that's the part I love too, because he's already like, dude, I have enough shit to deal with without you doing dumb stuff.
Exactly. But then, so he injects reagent into Hill's head, but he also injects it into Hill's, like, body. And Hill is, like, this is the first example of it actually, like, to a certain level working. Because he's talking, he seems relatively, like, of mind, you know?
Yeah. One thing that kind of bothered me, though, is Hill's breathing.
Yeah.
Being
it's like detuned.
Yeah, it's raspy, but also the fact that he has no lungs.
Yeah, that is a flaw. Well, how is he talking? He doesn't have lungs.
Yeah, which I mean is very. He talks like this.
I mean, you could argue that the reason he's talking like that because he doesn't have any lungs, but like maybe it's straight air going through.
And that's what I was kind of thinking. It could be the air that's coming up from his throat and his mouth, and that's why he's so weak. I mean,
like the air in the air.
But then again, we don't know the capabilities of the Re-Animator.
The reagent.
Or the reagent that brings them back. I mean, there's a number of things that could have happened. Like, for instance, why do the bodies go insane? Even if they're fresh.
Exactly. So then... Yeah, go on.
No, continue.
So then, his body comes conscious and hits Herbert. And then he steals all of his lab equipment and he sneaks into the morgue because he's going to bring some people back as well. But at some point during all that, he and it's a lot of dark comedy because it's a body without a head carrying around a head.
Yeah.
But at some point, he lobotomized the dean, and he's telling him what to do. So he gets the dean to kidnap his daughter.
Which essentially the dean is like that because he's basically kind of what's the word? Brain dead. He's kind of brain dead from the serum.
He's mindless, really.
Yeah.
He's kind of like I think in the 20s or 30s there was a movie and that's the first early definition we get of zombie, which is a corpse that someone is controlling. So it's more like that than anything else.
Yeah. And it kind of really starts to show the manipulativeness of that we probably see about kind of why Dean and Hill were friends.
Yeah.
Because Hill's true personality shows that, and it makes you wonder too what the relationship was between the Swiss professor and him were,
because he copied a lot of his work.
Yeah, and it makes you wonder though if really if it was really Hill who copied the work.
Right, exactly. I mean, I wouldn't doubt it for a second. He's very skeezy.
Yeah. And the way that he approaches Hill alone into acquiring his serum.
Herbert. The way Hill approaches Herbert.
Or Herbert, yeah. The way Hill approaches Herbert about acquiring his serum is you kind of get a sense that it's more than just about having it and blackmailing him to have it.
Right.
It really feels like it's a much more personal thing, which, you know, if that makes sense. I know it's kind of hard to explain, but it feels like a more personal reason than just, oh, you possibly copied my work. It feels like he specifically has been after this for a while and knows that something like this exists.
Exactly. A lot more forethought.
Yeah, which you'd think if that was really true, he'd be hiding it and wouldn't be so desperate to get his hands on it. If he was really the one who had invented the serum and had all these different ideas and had it copied. And I feel like, you know, even with the moral knowledge, the way that Hill reacts of how desperately he wants this serum.
Because he wants to be rich.
Yeah, and that's what makes me feel like, you know, the relationship is that Herbert is the one who, him and his mentor were the ones who got their work copied.
Mm-hmm.
Because you'd think that if Hill was really as smart as he says he is and knows all this stuff, that he would have made the serum and he would have been rich by now.
Exactly.
And we would have gotten Herbert probably trying to take him down.
Exactly.
So that's definitely one thing, too.
So the dean, while Dan is visiting with Meg, because they've kind of silently broke up at this point, they're kind of talking. It seems like they're going to be okay, but then the dean comes in and kidnaps her.
Yeah, which is more than creepy.
Yeah. Well, it's her dead dad kidnapping her. So then he finds Herbert, tells him what's happening. He's like, he probably took her here. He stole all my stuff, but I've got some stuff upstairs. And he's like, I got a plan. So then we get to the very uncomfortable scene. Because the dean brings her to an observation table where Hill's head is at. And then takes her dress gets taken off. And then Hill's corpse body starts groping her boobs.
Yeah, as he is saying that, how he's always wanted this and I've always had desire. Yeah. And it's just like, dude, really?
Well, and it's all and it's creepy. She's unconscious. It's very important. Like, it's just gross. And then she wakes up and she's screaming. And then the body picks up the head, and I won't say what happens, but let's just say things involving the decapitated head's bleeding profusely mouth and a nude woman. We'll just leave it there.
Yeah, it's really one of those Brian used in the moments that is like, you could definitely do without.
Oh, 100%. It's so explicit. And she's like, she says stop multiple times, and it sounds like she's crying, and it's just, I don't super love it at all.
Which I think any director could tell you that was uncomfortable, but I feel like I feel like this one was really just not necessary and didn't need to be put in there.
Yeah, it's Yuzna though. He likes making his stand out, which they do to his credit, but
I don't think it has the same message. I mean, one of the things that came out of Evil Dead was a certain scene too that involved trees. I mean, it's definitely one of those things that you kind of always find in a Brian used in a movie, so it makes me feel like he's more keen on putting that kind of stuff in there.
Exactly.
Which, if that's you, then that's you.
But. Yeah. But so then Herbert comes in, and he starts talking to Hill, and we get the great line of Hill's like, I'm going to use your work and become famous, and he goes, who's going to believe the word of a decapitated head? Go get a job in a sideshow. Which is a great line.
Yeah. And it's kind of funny because Hill is a joke.
Yeah, exactly. Like, really? Who is going to believe a decapitated head? But then Herbert's talking to him while Dan is getting Meg. And then Herbert's like, I have a plan. And Hill goes, I have a plan too. And then all of the corpses get out. Like, and then we see, like, some great makeup design, because we got a burn victim, we got a person who has tire treads on them because they were hit with a car, and, like, just, it's a lot of naked people.
Yeah, which...
There's a person who's a shotgun victim who's got, like, half a face. Like...
Which is kind of like... Okay.
Yeah. But he says he lobotomized all of them, so they all do his bidding.
Yeah, which kind of makes me confused, because it's like, if you're lobotomized, you're not going to follow anybody. You're just
Yeah.
more or less not there ever.
Exactly. But they start attacking everybody, and it's a very hopeless situation because there's so many more of them. They're so much stronger, and it's just Dan and Herbert trying to fight back. And Meg is able to convince her dad to do something, so her dad grabs Hill's head. Oh, I forgot. The creepy part the other creepy part we didn't mention.
Which I'm trying to think of because I think we missed.
Dan goes through Hill's stuff to try and find clues of where he would have taken Meg, and he finds a file folder with Meg's name on it, and it's got pictures of her and samples of her hair.
Oh, I've completely forgot about that part. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean it's a pretty forgettable beat. There's not much that happens in it other than just finding out that this dude is more of a creep than you thought.
I mean, that's still pretty stalker.
Yeah, exactly. It's the first big paw. Yeah. But so then her dad grabs his head and starts crushing it, which causes all the other corpses to freak out.
Yeah, because they're almost like you said, he controls them.
Like
but
a hive mind.
Kind of funny, yeah. It's almost like he did something to make them a hive mind.
Yeah. But he, crushes the head and throws it against the wall. It's a great effect. And then Herbert goes up to Hill's body that doesn't have a head and hits it with 2 full, injections of the reagent. And, his large intestines burst open out of his chest and grab Herbert like a tentacle.
Yeah, which it's kind of like the more serum you have, the more odd tolls it takes on your body.
Yeah, the more huge reaction you get.
Yeah, which they didn't really specify if Hill necessarily did anything with the serum.
No.
At all, but it still wouldn't have really explained it because that was the batch that Herbert had.
I mean, we see him at a point, we see his body applying more to his head, but I don't know. But so then this is when we get the scene where you 100% know Herbert does not care about life. He just cares about the knowledge of it because he tells them both to leave, but then he tells Dan, get my notes. And Dan grabs the duffel bag of Herbert's notes while he's getting swarmed upon by a bunch of monsters. Which, spoiler, we find out he's not dead. They never explain.
Yeah, they don't really explain
knowledge.
in any of the movies.
Yeah. But they're starting to get away, but then they both get attacked. Meg gets she gets her throat grabbed by one, and he gets a fire axe and cuts the hand off, but she passes out on the ground.
Well, she was being strangled for a long time too,
Yeah.
so by the time that Dan gets the axe, he had already.
She's unconscious. Yeah.
Yeah, and at this point, she's just trying to choke what little life she has left out.
Yeah, but then he carries her. He gets her put on a table in a room. He's trying to chest compression. He does the shock paddles, but they find out she's got a broken trachea, so she dies, which sucks.
Yeah, and Dan takes it really hard because this is the second time that he's had to deal with that, but also it is the person that he loves on that table.
And it's also so much guilt for him, I'm sure, because if he was just a little faster, or if he even go back further, if he listened to her and didn't take Herbert into his house.
Yeah, and I think that was the main thing, because not only, I mean, as much as he probably hated Dean, it was his girlfriend's father.
Exactly.
And there is a lot of, responsibility of messing that up, and that's family.
Exactly.
So because that was
future
already,
father-in-law.
That was already something too, that before he told Megan, he had already had a lot of mixed feelings about telling her, because he knew that telling her that, and he wanted to tell her, but Herbert was more like, or just keep it shush, which,
shush, yeah.
Would be better, and I'm kind of telling you, but also saying you better keep your mouth closed.
Exactly. But she dies, he's crying, and then he grabs some reagent out of the bag, kisses her on the forehead, says I love you, and it shows him injecting her, and then the movie just ends. We don't see what happens. Do they touch on what happens in the sequel?
Sort of. The sequel kind of
Picks up after.
it really skews. I don't know how to describe it. It really. It's kind of spontaneous. Just kind of.
Okay.
And you're just kind of like, what?
Okay.
But they do touch up on what happens to
Okay.
Megan.
That's good.
She's really not in there. I don't think she's played by the same actress either. I think they.
Well, I know there's another love interest who is the titular bride.
Yeah, which she's a likable character. I mean, it's still kind of like one of those things with like Fright Night where, was it Freddy? What was his name in Fright Night again?
Charlie.
Yeah, it's like Charlie. You know, it wasn't the same as him and
his girlfriend.
Yeah, his girlfriend. I'm trying to remember her name.
We'll look it up in a second, but yeah, I get what you're saying. It was a relationship that you believe. Amy, yeah, it's a relationship that you believe and you root for. Yeah.
Yeah, and you know, I wouldn't say the sequel's bad. It was definitely worth it. It's really fun, and one of the things that is really good about this movie that I really enjoy was seeing the reagent.
Yeah, because it's glow
glowing
stick
green, and it's so satisfying to watch.
It's glow stick juice. That's how they got that effect of it being glowing green.
Which, not to mention the fact of the lighting, the way that the movie is dimmed with the colors to make the green pop more.
Yeah, it's really
So we got the visual effects. The second part of it too that makes it so good is the fact that the opening title sequence alone.
Yeah.
And it gives that sense of.
It's literally just photos from diagrams from a medical book, and it's a very less is more title sequence because they're just in different colors, they're rotating, you get the theme,
but they're zoomed in and zoomed out. They're perfectly timed with the music.
It's really great,
a sense, and it really is visually satisfying to watch. So
yeah,
Re-Animator is.
I enjoyed it. Yeah,
I enjoyed it a lot, and it's something that you really need to watch for yourself.
Yeah. If you're not too sensitive to gore, because there is quite a lot,
or nudity.
Yeah, and nudity and sensitive subjects. Yeah,
but otherwise, it is a great film that I.
Little hour and a half romp. Good for this time of year.
Yeah, and something fun. Get your man.
Get some popcorn. Watch with your friends.
Frankenstein on. But yeah, that's definitely on Tubi. All three of them should be on Tubi, and I think 2 of them are on Prime.
Yeah,
so.
Have yourself an October marathon.
Yeah, so I think without further ado, that has been Re-Animator.
Yeah, and this has been Film Nerds Hour.
With your host, Noah Sweeto.
And Nathaniel Shoemaker. Have a happy Halloween, everybody. We'll see you next time.
Yep, see you later. Be safe, guys.
Bye-bye.